All right. Guys, good to see y'all. All right, we've got the good guys and the bad guys. I talked to the good guys earlier. I'll talk to the bad guys now. Just kidding. Some of the journalists are okay, I'm sure. Let me say a couple of things, and then we'll just go down the line and take questions. I mean, look, we had a great rally with incredible energy with President Trump last night in Minnesota. I think that Minnesota is ready to turn red because people are sick of Kamala Harris's inflation, they're sick of Kamala Harris's open border, and they're sick of Kamala Harris wanting to give Social Security and Medicare to illegal immigrants instead of the American citizens who have worked for it all their lives. We have a winning message in November. We just have to take that message to every state, to Minnesota, to Virginia, to the traditional battlegrounds, and I think if we do, we're going to win this race. I think the way the media has treated Kamala Harris has frankly been shameful over the past week. This race is about public policy. How is Kamala Harris going to make people's lives better, and how is she going to do anything different from what she's done over the last 4 years? The media seems totally uninterested in covering that Kamala Harris said she wants to ban fracking, that Kamala Harris says she wants to give Medicare to illegal immigrants, that Kamala Harris has said that she wants to defund the police, that Kamala Harris bailed out some of the rioters that burned Minneapolis to the ground just 3 or 4 short years ago. You guys have got to do a better job of covering the details and the public policy of this race, and I think if not, you're going to continue to see the approval rating of the media and of Kamala Harris go lower and lower. But that's my introduction. How do we want to start here?
Let's start here.
Okay, we'll go from right to left.
Okay, fantastic. So you guys want to flip Minnesota, but Kamala is up 52% in the polls. What is the ground game? What are you going to specifically do to get out the vote in a state that hasn't voted red in decades?
Well, it's a good point. The state hasn't voted red in decades, and yet even the worst polls for President Trump have them within the margin of error. So I think we're going to take nothing for granted. She got a little bit of a bump from her introduction, but look, the people are going to learn her record. They're going to learn that she's a radical. They're going to learn that she's basically a San Francisco liberal who wants to take San Francisco policies to the entire country. And I don't think that's going to sell in Minnesota. I don't think it's going to sell anywhere else. So as we tell the message and as we talk about how President Trump has made people's lives better and can do it again, I think we're going to turn Minnesota red and a lot of other states as well. You talk about the ground game. The ground game is really just about driving turnout. We know that we have the votes in Minnesota to win the race. We just got to make sure that some of those lower propensity voters actually get out there, get to the polls, and vote for us. That's something we're working on. We've got great fundraising to make sure that we've got the poll workers and the ground game to do it, and we're going to keep on hammering the message until November.
Who's next?
Senator, some of the people that Kamala Harris is looking at for running mates are Governor Walz, Josh Shapiro, folks in Midwestern states or in Rust Belt towns. Obviously, that's something that an appeal that you bring to the Trump ticket. And what do you think about some of those potential people you might be debating?
Look, I'm not going to give Kamala Harris advice on who she should pick as a running mate. Whoever she picks as a running mate, I think we have the edge because President Trump's governing agenda actually worked for the American people. I think what people in the Rust Belt care about maybe more than anything else is bringing back good American manufacturing jobs. The Chinese make our pharmaceuticals. God bless you guys, thank you. The Chinese make our pharmaceuticals. The Chinese make critical weapons that we rely on. The Chinese make way too many of our computer chips. Kamala Harris has doubled down on this green energy scam that's actually shipped a lot more manufacturing jobs to China. President Trump and I want to bring them back to Pennsylvania, to Minnesota, to Wisconsin. So we're going to bring that message all across the industrial Midwest. I think it's a winning message because people want to make things in America, and we could do more of it if we had better public policy.
Senator, there's been a lot of speaking over this past weekend, but Donald Trump is at the Turning Point USA event, and Democrats are picking up on what he said to Christians. He said, get out to vote just this time. You won't have to do it in 4 more years. It'll be fine. It'll be fixed. Could you just clarify what he meant by that?
Look, I think President Trump is saying that he's going to do a lot of good over the next 4 years, and this is the theme that the media has totally distorted, where they've taken what he said repeatedly again and again, and I think, frankly, they've lied about what he actually meant. President Trump said very simply that if we don't win this election, look, Kamala Harris has talked about giving illegal aliens the right to vote. We're not going to have a real election in this country again if you bring in millions of people who shouldn't be here and then give them the right to vote over American citizens. So I think he's saying, get out there, make sure this election matters, because if you don't, the next 4 years, we may not have a real election if the Democrats give illegal aliens the right to vote. Yes.
Have you spoken to Donald Trump since your previous comments have been resurfacing, and what were those conversations like?
Previous comments, meaning that I criticized President Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, President Trump and I have talked a lot about this. In fact, I sometimes joke that I wish that he had the memory of Joe Biden because he's got a memory like a steel trap, and he certainly remembers criticisms that people have made. But this is where the media, I think, really misses Donald Trump. Donald Trump accepts that people can change their mind. And you ask, why did I change my mind on Donald Trump? Because his agenda made people's lives better. This whole thing is not about red team versus blue team or winning an election for its own sake. It's about getting a chance to govern so that you can bring down the cost of groceries, close that border, and stop the fentanyl coming across our country. For 4 years, he did a better job of that than anybody that I've ever seen as president in my lifetime. So I changed my mind because he did a good job, and that's what you do when people do a good job and you're wrong. I've talked to President Trump a lot about it, but look, he doesn't care about what I said 8 years ago. He cares about whether we together can govern the country successfully, and that's what this election is all about, getting that chance to govern so we can make people's lives better.
And have you had those conversations this week?
No, I mean, I don't think President Trump has brought it up. I talked to him last night for a while. I talked to him the day before yesterday. We're talking about the race, right? When we catch up, we're talking about how to bring our message to the industrial Midwest, to the Sun Belt, to the important battleground states. We talked a little bit about what I was going to say at the rally, what he was going to say at the rally. So we talk a lot, but we haven't talked about past comments the last couple days.
Senator,
Yeah.
your rollout has also coincidentally, I think, been one of the most let's say tumultuous weeks in modern political history. I wonder how you're adjusting. You know, I'm thinking back to when you came to talk to us in Phoenix and you were surrounded by press asking if you would be a running mate. It's been about 2 months. Last week you've adjusted to going from being a senator from Ohio to the running mate on the Republican ticket. I mean, what's that been like for you, and how are you dealing with the new scrutiny, the schedule, all of that stuff?
Look, I'm having a great time. How could I not have a great time with great people like this behind us, right? You guys are incredible. I think that a lot of people, the media hilariously says, well, how are you adjusting? The answer is, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, as a famous Southern Democrat once said. We are doing this to make people's lives better. And the media and the Harris campaign are not going to make it easy on us. They're going to attack us. They're going to lie about us. That is the price of admission to governing this country. And I think it's a shame, absolutely, but I think that it's what you have to do. So I'm doing great, man. I'm having a good time. My family's here. They're hopped up on chocolate milk, so it's going to be a wild plane ride home. But look, we're having a great time, and I'm enjoying it. And I think that we have 100 days. And the way I think about it is no days off. We're going to sprint to the finish line, and we're going to make sure that the American people know President Trump's agenda worked, Kamala Harris's didn't. And I think if we get that message out there, we're going to win.
Senator, both you and President Trump yesterday addressed the rocket attack in Israel.
Sure.
And President Trump himself has said...
Actually, guys, sorry, could we shift? Because I'm like staring right into the sun here.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. I just don't... I'm gonna look like an idiot on TV if I'm staring directly in the sun.
So as I was saying, you both addressed the rocket attacks last night. President Trump has said on several occasions that he wants a swift end to the war between Israel and Hamas.
Yeah.
How would a Trump-Vance administration gauge the end of that? Like, what would those markers be?
Yeah.
And should Israel maintain a sort of caretaker presence in Gaza at the end of the hostilities?
Well, look, first of all, I think the Harris administration has been a disaster on this because they say that they want the war to end, and yet they've delayed critical shipments of weapons that would actually allow the Israelis to bring the war to a swift conflict. I mean, we don't want Gaza civilians to die. We also want Hamas to be taken out, and the meeting there, the intersection of those two policy goals is to end the war as quickly as possible in a way that destroys Hamas as a fighting machine. I think the Israelis could do that so long as they had the support from their allies that they needed. But remember, the important goal here is not just the eradication of Hamas, it's to rebuild the Middle Eastern peace process between the Israelis and the Sunni Arab states so that they can provide a regional counterbalance to Iran. There is no way you can do that while this war is going on, so bring the war to a close, give the Israelis what they need, and then figure out what comes next when the war is done.
Cool. Thank
Great.
you, guys.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. We're going to fly home. God bless you guys. Let's turn Minnesota red. Thank you. Thank you.